Hey everybody, what's up? It's Voodoo 51292 here, and welcome to another one of my honest and thorough game reviews. Now before we start, I must apologize because there is a thunderstorm going on outside right now, so if at any point during this video there's thunder or anything like that, then you'll know why. So anyway, in today's game review, we will be looking at a game that is published by 2K, one of my all-time favorite publishing companies, publishing such games as BioShock and Borderlands and The Darkness 2 earlier this year, which was one of my favorite games so far of 2012. And their, I guess, newest published game at the point I'm making this video, which is a third-person shooter called Spec Ops: The Line. And I'll be taking a close look at this game today, like we do all the time. I'll be taking a look at the single-player campaign, as well as the multiplayer component of Spec Ops: The Line. But we'll go ahead and start off with the single-player campaign, because that is the heart and soul of Spec Ops: The Line. So to give you some background information about the game and the plot and setting, that kind of thing. About 6 months before the events of the game, there was a group of U.S. soldiers called the Damned 33rd, was the name of this this group of soldiers, led by a man named John Conrad, and they were coming out of the Afghan War. And at this point, there were massive sandstorms that hit the city of Dubai in the UAE and basically devastated the city. And Conrad and the 33rd volunteered as they were leaving Afghanistan to go into Dubai and rescue as many people as they could from the ruins of the city. And when they got there, things only got worse. And the U.S. government actually requested that the 33rd evacuate Dubai, to which they refused and remained in Dubai to try to get people out. But the more they stayed there, the sandstorms got worse and worse and worse, and they never came out. And so basically everybody assumed that they were dead and that Dubai was a lost city. The 33rd were labeled as traitors for not following the orders of the U.S. government, and it was pretty much a case closed kind of a deal. Well, the game picks up and follows a group of 3 men known as Delta Squad, which is a special forces unit of the U.S. Military. And they are dispatched because the U.S. government receives a radio transmission out of Dubai from Conrad, basically saying that the evacuation has failed and that a lot of people have died and that kind of thing. So the U.S. wants to covertly send in these 3 guys, Delta Force, to try to go into Dubai, see if Conrad is somehow alive, get him, and get any survivors that may still be there out. And that's more or less the point or the plot of Spec Ops: The Line. That's what you're trying to do. You're a man named Martin Walker, and you're the leader of this Delta Squad or Delta Force. And as you get to Dubai and you start moving through the city, you do find that things aren't anywhere like they said. It's far from being a dead city. All kinds of people are alive, different factions vying for power. And the more and more you play through the game, the more and more the plot thickens, things get complex. You find out all kinds of stuff that's been going on in Dubai. The CIA gets involved, and it gets very, very messy. And there's twists and turns all throughout the plot of this game. Pretty interesting pace that the game follows. Interesting twists and turns throughout the gameplay. And a pretty neat plot. Now, I do have to say that this game focuses pretty heavily on some very dark themes. Apparently, the plot of this game was inspired by the movie Apocalypse Now, which that movie was inspired from the book The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, which is kind of, a parallel to that, since, the leader of the 33rd is named John Conrad. It's kind of a parallel to Joseph Conrad, author of The Heart of Darkness. So it really deals with a lot of heavy themes. There's going to be a lot of moral ambiguity in this game. It's really going to test the player's resolve and really kind of bring you into this world and bring you into the body of Martin Walker, experiencing all the stuff that's going on. From things that I've heard from people who are actually in the military, speaking on this game, they say that this game is a good representation of how brutal war can really be and how it can really mess with a soldier's mind, seeing some of the stuff and having to make some of the decisions that you have to make in war. So it's a very, very dark, heavy game. This is not a game that you're going to want to sit through and blow through. It's not a Call of Duty, which is just basic war. This is the ugly, gruesome side of war, the dark side of it, dealing with very heavy and sometimes messed up, twisted themes. So just understand that this is absolutely a mature rated game, and it's going to be pretty heavy playing this game, alright? So, also, throughout the game you meet a pretty cool cast of characters, people all with different personalities. I have to say that the graphics in the game are very well done, very detailed. The voice acting is very good. The voice actor of the main character is actually Nolan North, who is very well known around the video game community for voice acting. He's the voice of Nathan Drake and Desmond Miles, from Uncharted and Assassin's Creed respectively. Those are his major roles, but he's done voice acting all across the board, and he does the voice acting for the main character, so it's very good. The other actors are good as well. So, interesting plot, interesting setting, and that kind of sets us up to talk about now the gameplay of the game, the gameplay of the single player. Well, this is a third-person cover-based shooter game. So, very similarly to third-person shooter cover-based games you've played in the past, it's going to play very, very similarly. Like Uncharted, like Gears of War, like the released not too long ago, Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Very heavily based third-person shooter combat. You're going to have your standard loadout of weapons. You're going to have pretty much all the basics. Basic handguns, assault rifles, explosive sniper rifles. Really the normal standard kit for a shooter, alright? And you'll be facing lots and lots and lots of pretty generic enemies, I have to say. The enemies in the game are very generic, aren't very well varied. You're going to be fighting a lot of clones, let me put it to you that way. It's a very standard third-person shooter, very standard fare, really nothing out of the ordinary. For the most part, what you're going to be doing is third-person shooter combat, mixed in with a couple of interesting pieces that have kind of been in other games, like sniper parts of the game, or a part where you're, you have to mark targets for an airstrike, that kind of stuff. A couple of points where you're in a helicopter. So, as far as the gameplay, it's pretty similar to what you've played. You do have two teammates, as I mentioned, that are the AI in the game, that are with you and take part in the gameplay with you. But other than that, it's pretty much how it is. So let me get down to the things I like, the things I don't like about the single player Spec Ops The Line. Things I like. As I mentioned, the plot, it's pretty good. There's a lot of different twists. It's definitely kind of a fresh plot. It's not really rehashed out, like mini games are, where you're just fighting the Russians or fighting the Middle Easterners or whatever. It's a lot different than that, and it deals with some pretty interesting themes, although they are heavy. But I like that. The soundtrack of the game I thought was very good. They had some really cool rock style soundtrack and all in there that I thought was good. The voice acting was very good. So as far as the production of the game, all that kind of stuff I thought was very good. But here's where the giant dichotomy is. Because you have an interesting campaign plot, good graphics, good soundtrack, good voice actors, but then you have the gameplay, which I think is a complete 180 from how the storyline and production is. And as I already talked about what the gameplay is, basically. But it's a lot of BS, alright? Again, I have to emphasize how generic this gameplay is. This is gameplay that we've seen 100 times before. I mean, you can only get behind cover on a barrier and shoot guys so many times, alright? It's really getting to the point now where third-person shooters need to start innovating, doing something, adding gameplay elements like Ghost Recon tried to do with some stealth gameplay and things of that nature. They need to start adding some things to standard third-person shooters because it's really getting stale at this point. But just really stupid, annoying things that just have bugged us forever and continue to bug gamers in these third-person shooters. The fact that the AI is extremely brutal in this game. This is not an easy game, by far, okay? It's a pretty difficult game. You take a couple of bullets and you're going to die. And the controls, I have to say, are pretty out of whack. They're not smooth controls. They're clunky controls. It's one of these games where the A button, because I played on Xbox, does everything. You know, it's to take cover, it's to sprint, it's to heal, it's to do everything. And what's very annoying about this game is it has a mechanic in there where, you know, in most games, if you want to sprint, you hold the direction and maybe hold a button to sprint, and you let up and you stop sprinting. Well, in this game, they tried to do something that I guess they thought people would like, where all you have to do is press a direction and tap the A button, and you don't have to hold it, and he'll sprint until you stop moving. But here's the problem with that, okay? Number one, like I said, the sprint button and the cover button are the same button. So there were many times when I would go up to a door, and I'd want to take cover behind the door frame. So I go up to the door and hit A, but because I wasn't in the perfect place, the game thinks I'm tapping A to sprint instead of to take cover. So instead of taking cover, I wound up sprinting into the middle of a room full of enemies and dying immediately because the game thought that I was hitting A to sprint instead of take cover. Many times in the game, tapping A to take cover doesn't register. You'll go up to a cover thing, you'll be tapping A, he'll take forever to get cover. Sometimes he won't, and you'll die as a result. Very aggravating. There's no smooth transition from cover to cover, which I think you absolutely have to have in a cover-based third-person shooter, is the ability to to be able to transition smoothly from one area of cover to the other. This does not have that feature. It's one of those games where if you point a direction that's just slightly away from cover, you'll actually get out of cover. You don't have to tap A to get out of cover. So sometimes I'd be trying to move left or right along cover or turn a corner in cover, and because I didn't do it perfectly, I would aim slightly away from cover. My guy would stand up and get shot and get killed. Very stupid stuff. This is a game with a lot of trial and error. They're going to throw tons and tons and tons and tons of enemies, wave after wave after wave after wave, that they expect you to kill. It gets very annoying and frustrating at times. Some bad checkpoints that make you redo up to 5 minutes of gameplay sometimes. You know, very annoying enemies that, you know, your standard enemies that have shotguns, that what they'll do is they'll run and charge you, and, you know, hit you or melee you when you're in cover, and once they do that, just like Uncharted 3, your guy stands up out of cover like this and gets shot immediately because you're in like a stun animation and can't get out of it. You know, your AI teammates are pretty badly programmed. Most of the time they just stand around and don't really do anything. Sometimes they'll be useful and they'll kill enemies. Most of the time they'll just kind of stand there and they'll just shoot concrete walls or barricades or something like that. But what really sucks about it is this game would actually be better gameplay-wise without the AI teammates, because what they'll do, because they're so stupid, is they'll be in the middle of this giant firefight, they'll run out in the middle of the open firefight and just get completely raped from all sides until they die in the middle of the firefight. Now, in a lot of games this isn't a problem, because your teammates are just down, and you can either choose to go revive him, or you can just leave him down, and once you've cleared the area, he'll jump back up and you're ready to roll. So if he gets killed in an area where there's no way you can revive him, you just leave him until you're able to kill everybody, then he'll revive. Well, in this game, when one of your teammates goes down, they have a life bar that slowly starts going away. And if you don't get to your teammate to revive him before his life bar runs out and he dies, you fail the entire mission. Now, usually you're with your 2 other teammates, so if one of your teammates gets down, you can give a command to the other guy to go and heal him. But here's the problem. If the AI teammate, and this happens a lot, is that stupid and they run out in the middle of a firefight, sometimes, I'm not kidding, they'll run out right in the open when there's a heavy turret, somebody shooting a turret, or there's a heavy enemy with a light machine gun. They'll run right in the open in front of them, stand there, and get completely mowed down. And they'll do this early in the stage so that there's a ton of enemies on the screen. So there's absolutely no way that you can get out of cover to go get him because you'll get killed instantly. You send your teammate to do it, which is great, but as soon as he gets out there to heal him, he gets killed. So now you're completely screwed, stuck in a rock and a hard place. There's no way that you can sit there and kill all the enemies on the screen in time to go revive them, but if you get out of cover, you go revive them, you're dead immediately. So when that happens, you're done. The stage is over, you have to replay it and just hope that your AI teammates aren't stupid enough to run out in the middle of the open and get mowed down. And it's very annoying. Why did they make the decision that you have to revive your teammates in a certain amount of time or you fail the mission? They should have made it like other games to where if your AI acts stupidly and runs out there and gets mowed down and there's no way you can get to him, then that's fine, leave him, kill the rest of the enemies, and then he'll come back. Very bad game choice, which screwed me a couple of times. Another annoying another annoying thing that happened during the course of the combat of this game, and it seemed to always happen when I was facing a heavy enemy. There's more or less 3 types of enemies in this game. You have your standard soldiers who either have, assault rifles or snipers or shotguns, that kind of thing. Later in the game you run into some elite soldiers who have some more armor, they're tougher to kill, they have a little bit better guns. And then you have your heavies, which obviously speaks for itself, heavy armor, a heavy gun that they shoot. That's about it. That's the only types of enemies in this game, alright? And many times this happens where I'll be in cover and a heavy would be coming and I'd be trying to fight the heavy off. And one of the other soldiers would perfectly toss a grenade directly behind my guy, alright? And first of all, the grenades in this game have stupid range. They're ridiculous. The range that the grenades in this game have, the enemy grenades. You have to be like at least 7 to 10 feet clear of that grenade for it to not affect you. Now I realize in real life, 7 to 10 feet you'd be dead from a frag grenade, but it's a video game, so you have to kind of suspend disbelief. You have to be really far away from the grenade. Well, this always happens. When there's a heavy there, they throw the grenade perfectly behind you, you're screwed. Because you certainly can't go forward to avoid the grenade, over cover, the heavy will rip you apart. If you try to run back past the grenade to safety, you're never going to make it. The grenade will blow up and kill you. And this happened multiple times and made me completely replay the stage. So a lot of the game is replaying stages over and over and over again, just trying to luck out to where a heavy comes and they don't throw that grenade. Or if they do throw the grenade, you're lucky enough to get away from it and survive without getting cut down by the heavy because you got out of cover. Or you're lucky that your AI teammate doesn't run out in the open and get killed to where you can't revive them and you're again screwed. So really just not good gameplay, and I think that they really squandered an opportunity in this game to have a really cool, unique third-person shooter game. Because again, the story, the soundtrack, the voice actors, the production value in the game is very, very good. And there are some set pieces in the game that are really awesome. But when it comes down to the grinding, gameplay that you're going to be doing constantly, it's just completely generic, very annoying and aggravating, bad programming in the combat in a lot of areas, some really bad checkpoints, and they just completely wasted an opportunity because the gameplay detracts so much from the plot, and it's really a shame that they didn't try to do anything at all really creative with the gameplay of the game. And it's just, the formula for the standard third-person shooter is getting very, very stale at this point. And honestly, I just think that the gameplay ruined the game. The story is what you're going to continue to play this game for, because if there wasn't a good story, the game would suck. I would sit here and tell you this game sucks. If there wasn't a good story, if the plot was uninteresting, the game would suck, because the gameplay, for the most part, sucks. But the story, the production value, that's what keeps the game going. So more or less, that's the single-player campaign of Spec Ops: The Line. Very good production value, very good behind-the-scenes stuff, plot, soundtrack, voice acting. Very boring, generic, repetitive, annoying gameplay that's going to make your blood boil. I actually slammed my controller on the floor during one part of this game. I can't tell you how long it's been since I've slammed the controller on the floor, but I actually did during one part of this game toward the end that I literally spent, it had to be over a half an hour replaying and replaying and replaying till I finally beat it. It was very frustrating, alright? So that's the single player. I did want to mention this though. In the single player, they do give you choices in the game. There are some points in the game that you have choices to make, alright? And at the very end of the game, when you finally learn what the hell's going on, there's 3 possible endings to the game. When you get to the very end of the game, there's one choice you have to make one way or another. If you make one choice, the game ends right then and there, you're done. If you make the other choice, the credits roll. After the credits, they bring you to an epilogue, and in that epilogue, you have 2 choices that you can make, which each lead to alternate endings. So you can have 3 endings, possible endings to the game, which is pretty neat, which again plays into the plot being good and all that kind of stuff. And as I mentioned, there's choices you can make during the course of the game. Do this, do that, you know, save these people, save these people. And there's quite a few of them. But here's the thing that's unfortunate and that doesn't really make any sense. The choices that you make during the course of the gameplay have absolutely no effect on the game. Whatever choice you make, the same outcome is going to happen. And when you get to the end of the game, it changes nothing. So it really boggles the mind. Why did they put the choices in the middle of this game when they have no effect at all on the ending? So, really perplexing and makes no sense. You can just do whatever the hell you want because the outcome's going to be the same. It doesn't change anything. And it really leaves you scratching your head, like, why have these options when they don't do anything? Now, when you get to the end of the game and make the choices, that's what determines your ending. But that's it. Nothing else you do in the game determines the ending. The scenario you get at the end of the game, the choices, are exactly the same regardless. So, really boneheaded. It makes no sense. They look like they just got lazy. They put the choices in the game, but then they don't make them mean anything. So, really silly mistakes there. The review is running long. It's already over 20 minutes. Good lord. I've already talked for a long time, so I'm going to get to the multiplayer briefly, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up and give the game a score. So the multiplayer Spec Ops: The Line, it is code-free. You don't need a code to play it. 2K is one of the cool developers who haven't done the online code thing yet. The gameplay, the multiplayer gameplay, again, very generic multiplayer. There's a few modes. There's 3 modes that you get to play when you first start the game. There's Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, and an objective mode where each team has 3 objectives and you go destroy the enemy's objectives, and when you destroyed all 3, they give you a 4th one, and then if you destroy that, you win, and your team can repair their objectives if they get shot. But that's pretty much the gist of it. As you level up, you unlock a couple more game modes, but they look to be just playlists of the original 3 modes. They don't look to be any new modes. And pretty standard stuff. You have loadouts, so you can choose guns, you can choose perks. Very similar to like a Call of Duty or even Uncharted 3's multiplayer, where you can get perks, unlock guns as you level up. You can customize your guy, how he looks. You unlock headgear, you unlock different things like that. But the multiplayer gameplay, it's nothing very exciting. There's no like kill streaks or anything like that, so it never gets anything crazy. It's just cover-based third-person shooter gameplay in multiplayer form. They have spawning problems in the game. Enemies spawn behind you all the time. There was one match I was playing, and I literally spawned on a guy with his back to me, and I just went doot 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 and killed him and got points. It was really stupid. Enemies were spawning behind me. The matchmaking sucks. It takes forever to find matches. Most of the time they'll start you in matches that are almost over, and then if you sit in the lobby and wait for the next match to start, usually for me it dropped. I only got to play one time where I stayed in the room and it went all the way through. But the thing that sucks more than anything else is the loading time. They have a voting system where you get to vote on the map. It takes 150 seconds before the voting ends. A full 2.5 minutes to just sit there and do nothing while people vote on the map. Complete waste of time. And then once the vote is locked in, it takes another 30 seconds for the match to start. So it takes 3 full minutes between matches to get them going. That's ridiculous. Nobody wants to sit there for 3 minutes and try to play a match. And I had a hard time getting into matches. Like I said, I tried to play Team Deathmatch. I only played one game, which was half a game, because most of the time when I tried to get into Team Deathmatch, it would put me in a room completely by myself or with one other person. It wouldn't find anybody else. So, the multiplayer, it's okay. I guess it's okay if they have it in there. Is it really going to add significant amount of the game? Absolutely not. It's just there for show, more or less. It's really not that great, and it's going through the motions of a multiplayer, okay? So, after this long review, after everything I've said, I want to review the game. And taking everything into consideration, I'm going to give Spec Ops The Line a 7 out of 10. Because, unfortunately, it's not a bad game. It's definitely above average. The plot is very good. Production value very good. But I think that the gameplay of the game detracts so much from the experience that it's really a shame. It's two completely different things. They put all kinds of effort into all the other stuff and just didn't put any at all into the gameplay. And it really makes the game suffer. It's a shame because I think they squandered a really good chance to make a unique game that had a really good plot and all that kind of stuff and really good supporting gameplay, but they completely dropped the ball when it came to the gameplay, which is really a shame. And the multiplayer is just there. It's not really that in-depth. It's not that great. It's very standard and basic, and you're going to play it for maybe a couple hours and be done with it. So, that's it. That's my review of Spec Ops The Line. A decent game, an okay game, definitely better than average. It's a 7 out of 10, and something I'm going to start doing from now on in my game reviews is right at the end I'm going to add whether or not I think it's a rent, a buy, or a don't even bother playing this game. And I'm going to give Spec Ops The Line a rent. I think Spec Ops The Line is worth the rent for the story, for the plot twists, the cool music, the good voice acting. Just be prepared to take on some frustrating gameplay, to replay some parts at times. It took me 6.5 hours to beat the game. If I didn't die as much as I did, it probably would have only taken maybe 5.5 to beat the game because I died so much. And the fact that the multiplayer is free, you might as well go ahead and rent the game. So that's what I give Spec Ops The Line, a 7 out of 10. It's a rent. Play it and enjoy the plot and just deal with the gameplay, I guess. That's all I can say. So thank you very much for watching. I hope everybody enjoyed. And I'll see everybody next time with another honest and thorough game review. Thank you guys very much.